Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a dice placement sort of resource gathering game called Kingsburg, and this is a game where you'll be rolling dice, placing them on specific courtly personalities in order to influence them to gather resources to build buildings and get enough victory points that will enable you to win the game. And in this video we're going to be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we will come back and we'll tell you whether or not Kingsburg is still worth playing today and in the future. So if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. Board Games 4K. So Kingsburg, how do you play this game? So there are 8 phases to this game, and you can keep track of the phases really easily because there's a little sort of track at the bottom of the board. Every time you complete a phase, you'll be moving your cat along this phase until you get to the end of the phase, and then you just rinse, wash and repeat. So the first phase is Aid from the King, and the way this works is the player who has constructed the fewest amount of buildings will get a free additional white die to roll in the next phase, right? So if there's a tie, then nobody gets a white die. All the tie players get to choose a free resource of their choice. So the second phase of Kingsburg is where you actually get to roll the dice. And what you do, you roll all your 3 or 4 dice or 5 dice, whatever, how many dice that you've got. You'll roll them and you'll add up the amount of pips you've got, not including the white dice that you roll. And whoever's got the highest amount of pips will go last. Whoever's got the lowest amount of pips will go first. And if there's a tie, then you keep the same position that you had before, right? Then what you'll be doing, you'll be placing your dice out onto the relevant courtly personalities on the board, and you can split your dice up if you want. You can place 1 die out onto a space, or you can place all your dice onto one space, but the dice that you place have to match the number that is on that space. So once everybody has done that, then you will start at the Joker and you'll work your way all the way up to the King, and you'll take the benefit of that space. So the benefits of the spaces are as follows. I'm going to take a deep breath here and I'm going to try and do it in one breath. Right, let's already go. So the Jester, you will gain a victory point. The Squire, you'll take a gold from the supply. The Architect, you'll take a wood from the supply. The Merchant, you will take 1 wood or 1 gold from the supply. The Sergeant, you recruit a soldier. The Alchemist, you can trade 1 single good of your choice, put it back in the supply for the other goods. Astronomer will take 1 good of your choice and plus 2 token from the supply. The Treasurer will take 2 gold from the supply. Master Hunter will take 1 wood and 1 gold, or 1 wood and 1 stone. The General will allow you to recruit 2 soldiers and secretly look at the topmost card of the enemy's deck. The Swordsmith will allow you to take 1 stone and 1 wood, or 1 stone and 1 gold from the supply. The Duchess will allow you to take 2 goods of your choice and 1 plus 2 token from the supply. The Champion will allow you to take 3 stone from the supply. The Smuggler will allow you to pay 1 victory point to take 3 goods of your choice from the supply. The Inventor will allow you to take 1 gold, 1 wood, 1 stone from the supply. The Wizard will allow you to take 4 gold. Queen will allow you to take 2 goods of your choice from the supply and secretly look at the topmost card of the enemy's deck and gain 3 victory points. And the King will allow you to take 1 gold, 1 wood, 1 stone from the supply and recruit 1 soldier. So once you get up to the King, then in turn order will then be allowed to build 1 building, unless you've got the, I think it's a King Squire's pawn, which will allow you to build 2 buildings. We'll get into that in a minute. Anyway, you'll be allowed to build 1 building from on your player mat. You will see that the player mat is divided into columns and rows, and then what you'll have to do, you will have to choose a column and build the first building, but your subsequent buildings will have to be built in that row. So you can't sort of build a building that's in the middle of it. You have to have built everything before the building on that row. Right, so phase 3 is a very simple phase. It's the King's Reward, and the player who has built the most buildings will get a free victory point direct from the King. Lovely. So phase 4 is summer, and that is the second productive season. You'll do exactly what you did in the first productive season. You'll keep doing this, and it follows exactly the same principle. So we're not going to go through it again unless you really want to, but if you want to see it again, just rewind the video and go and watch it again, right? So phase 5 is the King's Envoy, and the player who has built the fewest buildings will take the King's Envoy pawn, and this will allow you to either go somewhere where somebody else has been, not like that, will allow you to place your dice in a spot that's already occupied. And we forgot to mention previously that each one of these spots, each one of these places, only one player can place their dice there. So once you say placed your dice on the king, nobody else can go on a king's space unless they've got the King's Envoy. And also this allows you to build 2 buildings in the construction phase rather than 1 building. So phase 6 is autumn, and you'll do another production phase, and this works in exactly the same way. So if you've already rewound this video and watched it again, then you can do that if you want, but if you're not a geek, then you can just carry on watching. So phase 7 is the recruit soldiers phase, and what this does is allows you to trade in 2 goods for 1 soldier. You'll move your counter up the soldiers track in doing so. So phase 8 is the battle, and what you need to do here, you'll flip over the top card of the enemy's deck. You'll look at the threat level in the top left hand corner. You'll match that with where you are on the soldiers track. If you have more than the card's strength, you will get the blue benefit. If you've got less, you will get the penalty, but if you've got equal, you won't get nothing. So during the winter phase, what you have to do as well, you'll be told that you have to roll the 1 die and add that number to your soldier's strength, because that is the amount of soldiers that the king will send into battle. And like we said, once you've added that up, then if you've got more or less or the same, then something good, bad or nothing will happen. So you'll do this 5 times, and at the end of the game, whoever's got the most victory points will win the game of Kingsburg. So what do we like about Kingsburg? So the first thing that we like is we love dice placement. We love rolling dice. One of our favourite games is Castles of Burgundy and Troyes, right? So we love rolling dice and assigning those dice to spots on the board. The fact that Kingsburg lets you do that 3 times in each year, in each round, is fantastic. And although we got some qualms about the actual length of the game, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the fact that you do so much die rolling, and you can, you're not just limited to that 1 throw. You know you're going to be able to do it 3 times in a round. That is fantastic, and we love that about this game. It's bloated to a gutful with die rolling. So the second thing that we really like about this is the fact that the +2 tokens, they're not 1 token, so they keep odd die rolls as odd die rolls, and they keep even die rolls as even die rolls. And if they were 1s, then you could just build these up and just alter it by 1. But the fact that it keeps your die in that kind of bracket is really, really good, because it adds an alternative layer of strategy. Because it would have been so easy and lazy just to add a +1, but the fact they're +2, it really sometimes it causes a headache when you're trying to place your dice out on the board, right? So the third thing that we really like about Kingsburg is the huge choice of buildings in this game, and it's made even bigger with the To Forge a Realm expansion, and the fact that the buildings aren't really that much more powerful than each other. There's a good mix of special abilities versus victory points. So the buildings that give you the best victory points aren't as powerful as the ones that don't. So there's a bit of a toss up here between, do you want to sort of strengthen your prowess on the board, or do you just want to go for the victory points that will stand you in good stead towards the end of the game? So the fourth thing and final thing that we really like about Kingsburg is the fact it's so easy to follow, and the fact it's got that little track at the bottom of the board that takes you through all the 8 phases of the game is genius, right? But we still managed to cock it up. When we played this recently, we forgot to roll the King's Die in the winter, and we also forgot to add a victory point for the person that gets the best soldier score. But anyway, the fact that it is so easy to follow, it just drags you through the game stage by stage, and you know exactly where you are, and it's virtually impossible to forget where you are in the game. That's great. So what don't we like about Kingsburg? So the first thing that we don't like about Kingsburg is this game is just that 1 year too long. It outstays its welcome too much, and where you're sort of building up your buildings and you're increasing the proficiency of your engine as you go through the game, there's too much to keep an eye on. You'll be thinking, well, I've got to think about the +1s in battle that I've got on the board, which stage these buildings give me these special abilities, and your brain ends up getting warped in this sort of psychedelic malaise, and it's a real struggle to keep in check all the different variations that you have on the board. So the second thing that we don't like about Kingsburg is the King's Soldiers die roll in the winter phase is a bit pointless, because for the first few rolls, if it doesn't mean anything, because the enemies are so weak that you are just going to be relying on that King's die roll to carry you through mainly. So it doesn't really encourage people to invest in their soldiers. And the fact it's reset means that people are just going to be taking a risk. And I know some of the penalties in the early rounds are quite damaging, but there's more chance of rolling, say, a 4 or a 3, which will more often than not carry you through the first few battles. And that is a bit weak. And even in the expansion where you take the tokens, it doesn't really work, because people are always going to be keeping their best tokens back for the later phases of the game. So that is crap. So the third thing that we don't like about Kingsburg is the fact that the turn order is based on a random die roll, and that sucks. It really does. There's no real way to influence the nature of turn order being determined. You know, it would have been better if there'd been some kind of building or something, or some other way of mitigating the randomness of the turn order. And personally, I would have allowed you to, if you wanted to use a +2 token to sort of boost your die roll in turn order, maybe, sort of thing. But it's not there, so that is rubbish. And we don't really like that sort of unmitigated random die rolls in any game, let alone Kingsburg. So another thing which sort of follows on from this is in the same vein as the die roll, the King's Soldier die roll is a bit ineffective. The King's Squire pawn is equally as ineffective in the first few years of this game, because more often than not, most people are going to have built the same amount of buildings in the first few turns, right? So what's the point? Why have it there? Because only on certain games we played this as somebody taking a King's Squire in the first, second or third year, but more often than not it just stands there doing nothing, looking like a big bellend. So to summarise, is Kingsburg still worth playing today and in the future? So we're going to say yes, Kingsburg is an enjoyable dice sort of worker placement resource management game that is sort of plagued by what people call analysis paralysis in the later stages of the game, because whenever we play this, we always find when we come to the final year, the 5th year, that people end up just standing there staring at the board thinking, oh, I don't know what I want to do. Shall I do this? Shall I do this? Shall I do this? And you're like, come on, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And it really does sort of drag the game down. When where this game's so light, really needs to be a little bit shorter. There are some tough choices to be made in this, and some of the choices do make your brain bleed, and we really like the way that the game ties your brain in knots towards the end. So we're going to give this 4 out of 5. We haven't played the second edition, but we've read reviews about it, and it did seem to us that there wasn't really that much difference between the first edition and the expansion put together and the second edition. So because we're talking about the first edition, we're going to give this 4 out of 5 stars with the expansion. We haven't played it without the expansion, so we can't talk about that, but it's a very pleasant game. We're not going to play it that often because it's just that little bit too long for what it is. If we're going to play a game that long, we'd play Kalis or something like that for 5 players. But there you go. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to the channel, leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you next time.